Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and welcome to my free video training on the dangers of lymphatic congestion and how and why we should decongest our lymphatic system. We are living in an extremely exciting time because Western medicine is just beginning to understand how to measure this pervasive system of circulation in our body, the lymphatic system. Up until recently, and to this day, they're still learning how, but more and more information and research is happening around the lymphatic system. This information won't reach medical practice for another 5 to 10 to 15 years. The cool thing is that Ayurvedic medicine knew about the lymphatic system thousands and thousands of years ago. And what I try to do with my newsletters and my free videos that I put out every week is to prove this ancient wisdom with modern science. And that's what I'm doing with this video. I'm so incredibly excited about the research that's coming out about the lymphatic system. And I want to share that with you in this free video training. It's really going to be amazing, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be stuff you haven't heard before. I'm going to teach you how to detoxify your lymph, why your lymph, what your lymph is, how it works, how it gets out of whack, what happens to you when it gets out of whack. We're going to go through all of it in this free training. It's these 3 videos. You're going to love it. I'm super excited to get started. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a chiropractor, and when I was first in chiropractic school, I ran across an old doctor. His name was Dr. Birdie. And I used to call him on the phone every week, and he would tell me about these ancient principles of lymphatic drainage, which I don't even really know how he learned it, but that was his thing. And I learned a lot about circulation and lymph and diet from him. And then when I went into practice and I went to India in 1986 for a 2-week vacation and ended up staying there for a year and a half. That's where I met Deepak Chopra and came back and ran his Ayurvedic center for 8 years in Massachusetts. And now I'm in Boulder running my own Ayurvedic center many years later. I realized that in Ayurveda, the lymphatic system was well understood, and that there's an aspect of the lymph called rasa. And rasa means lymph, and it's the most important fluid of the body. And rasayana is the study of lymph, and in Ayurveda, rasayana is the study of longevity. So what's really cool is that the study of longevity in Ayurveda is the study of the lymphatic system. And that's what we're going to talk about. How can this lymphatic system, which is, and new science is about ready to prove this, is that the lymphatic system is directly linked to our longevity and how important that is and how little we know about it. So when I came back from India and I was working with Deepak, my job was to train medical doctors. I was the co-director of our doctors training program in Ayurvedic medicine. And I trained medical doctors, and I can't tell you, and I would talk about the lymph because it's a very important part. It's really one of the first things we learn when we learn Ayurveda is how to understand what's called the rasa dhatu, or the lymphatic tissue. And I would have medical doctors come to me regularly and say, how do you know so much about the lymph? We don't know anything about the lymph. All we know is that when people get cancer, their lymph system gets congested, or they get cancer in their lymph nodes, we take out lymph nodes. How do you know so much about it? And so I would teach them what I knew from the Ayurvedic perspective. And for the last 30 years plus, I've been practicing with a lymphatic-based understanding and learning and treating the lymphatic system the very best that I could with Ayurvedic herbs and lifestyle strategies and exercise. And we're going to talk all about some of those strategies, nasal breathing exercise, the benefits of breathing, all this amazing stuff, which now has science to prove that this lymphatic system is directly linked to longevity, and there's many strategies to keep it moving. And when it's not moving, bad things happen. That's why we call this the dangers of lymphatic congestion. Okay, so that's a little bit about myself. Now I run a company called LifeSpa.com where we put out free videos and blogs and articles every week for free. Over 700 videos and articles online for free, all about self-help that you can learn tons about lymph and digestion and exercise and all kinds of things from the Ayurvedic perspective, always trying to prove ancient wisdom with modern science. And how cool is that, right? You have ancient wisdom, right, which has been used for thousands of years, and we tend to discount, oh, the ancients, they didn't know anything. Modern science is where it's all at and what it's all about. Well, yeah, but I can show you study after study that shows that coffee is good, and then I can show you study after study that says coffee is bad. I can show you that soy is good and soy is bad. In fact, in my new book, Eat Wheat, chapter 2 is a whole chapter of all the research that suggests that wheat and gluten is a poison. It's really just a protein. But then I show you right then and there all the research that suggests that gluten is actually quite beneficial. They say, gluten causes diabetes. I've got science that shows gluten actually helps and reverses diabetes. Gluten causes depression. I've got science that shows that gluten actually helps depression. And I went down the list, study after study after study. So how does it make sense that science on one hand could be, saying it's either good or bad, and then there's science on the other hand saying it's either good or bad? When you have ancient wisdom, stuff that's been used for thousands of years, and we have modern science, I feel like that's like amazing and compelling. And if we can put those two together, I want to take that to the bank. Well, maybe not to the bank. At least I want to look at it. I want to investigate that, as opposed to just saying, oh, this new study said chocolate's good for you, therefore I should eat a lot of chocolate. Or this new study says coffee is really great for my heart or for my brain or for my prostate, and I should eat, the studies say, 8 cups of coffee per day. Some of the science doesn't even really make sense, right? So that's what we do here at LifeSpa. That's what I do. And I love sharing the knowledge. It's the most important and passionate part of my life, is to share this knowledge. That I dig up the research, dig up the ancient wisdom, put it together and share it with you. Hopefully years and years and years before you see it in your medical practice, we're giving you that information. So it's very cool. And the lymphatic system is so exciting. Okay, so are you all ready? Let's dig in. The lymphatic system is, like I said, from the Ayurvedic perspective, it's rasa, it's rasayana, it's longevity fluid. Okay, in the Ayurvedic system, that lymphatic fluid is the first nutrient fluid that comes from your food, that feeds every single cell of your body. What's really amazing about Ayurvedic medicine is that they're really into the subtleties. Subtleties in that the most subtle things are the most profound. There's, in fact, and I want to write an article about this, which I think is just fascinating, is that the idea is that there's an aspect of the Vedas are the oldest written books, textbooks in the world, one called Dhanurveda. Ayurveda is another Veda, okay? Yoga is a Vedic science. So Dhanurveda, Dhanar bow or Dhanurasana is the yoga posture of the bow. It's pulling back the bow. So it's really cool, right? If you pull back a bow, right? And that's pulling it back into the silence, into the subtlety. Any little movement here where I hold the string is going to make an exponential effect at the level of the target. So the most subtle influence has the most profound effect. This is a crazy law of nature. It's something that I think is really the future of modern medicine and the understanding of that. Let me give you a couple examples, right? The microbiome, we have 90% of the human cells are microbes. We know those microbes are directly affected by what you think, by what you feel, by what you say, what you expose yourself. If I yell and scream and there's a cup of yogurt on the table, the microbes in the cup of yogurt are going to dramatically shift. They are affected dramatically by the stress in the environment. So our microbes feel everything. And then they tell our brain, hey, it's crazy down here. And the brain tells everybody it's crazy, get ready for the war, the emergency. And they also tell the gut that the war is on. And the gut freaks out even more, alters the microbiology even more, which alters the physiological function of almost every single function in our body. Powerful information. And these bugs are so subtle, we can't even see them, okay? Another example. Circadian medicine. Scientific American wrote an article saying that circadian medicine will revolutionize medicine as we know it. What is circadian medicine? Living in harmony with the light-dark cycles. The very first cell on this planet was connected to the light-dark cycles. New science is saying that we as human beings have lost our connection to the light-dark circadian cycles, and getting reconnected will revolutionize medicine as we know it. That information is Ayurveda 101. You'll learn it the first day in the Ayurvedic class. How to live in harmony with nature, eating with the seasons, going to bed at the right time, eating at the right time. All these things are basic principles in Ayurveda, yet very, very subtle. So what Ayurveda said, which I thought was pretty cool, was that when you eat your food, that affects this nutrient fluid called lymph, or what Ayurveda calls rasa. And if you're stressed out when you eat your food, then that emotional charge, I know this might sound crazy, but there's science to back this up now, that when you're eating stressed out or on the run, that emotional charge will impregnate that food, particularly the microbes that are on that food. Of course, unless it's processed food, there are no microbes to take the impression, which is a lot of what we eat, which has got another whole problem we'll talk about. But if the food was whole, and it did have microbes on it, which is supposed to happen. The soil has bugs, the bugs are attracted to the plants, you eat the plants become our food, and the bugs in those plants become our microbiome, which does the heavy lifting for every single physiological function in our body. That's how it's supposed to work. And those bugs change with each season. And each season, those bugs support different physiological functions, right? So when you are emotionally affecting or emotionally charged or angry or upset when you're eating your food, Ayurveda says that emotion impregnates and charges that food, alters those microbes, and those microbes become disturbed as they go into our gut, become our microbiome, and don't function nearly as well. Crazy, right? But here's the science. The science shows that when you take a plant, right, and you spray a pesticide on that plant, it may, probably most likely, mutate some of the microbes on that plant. When you eat that plant, the mutated microbes actually pass that genetic mutation to the microbes in your gut. And this is a hard science now, and I've written about this, those mutated microbes in your gut will pass that genetic information to your genetic code, to your DNA, passing that genetic alterated information there. It's called horizontal or lateral transfer of genetic information. It's crazy, right? And those impressions, whether it be stressed out impressions or joyful ones, how it works on the positive side, can change your DNA. It's called epigenetics. It's pretty powerful. Well, Ayurveda talked about this thousands of years ago, that there is this thing called epigenetics. Well, they didn't talk about it as epigenetics. They just knew that what you see, you become. And what you expose yourself affects you on the deepest level. And the deepest level, remember the bow, has the most powerful effect. So this is the cool thing about science today, is that the science is saying, yeah, the subtle stuff seems to be the most profound stuff. Whether you're living in sync with the natural cycles or rhythms of nature, or your microbiome is happy and healthy, those are extremely subtle, but with a very profound effect. So when you sit down and eat your food in a relaxed, comfortable way, they say in Ayurveda, never eat while angry, better not to eat at all. Never eat while standing up. Death looks over your shoulder if you do that. Stuff like that. These are old sayings that say, sit down, relax, and take some time, you know. I'll tell you a quick story about that. When I was in India once, I was eating a meal with a medical doctor family in Cochin in the south of India in Kerala. And I'm having this meal, and a bunch of people are having this beautiful meal together. And the mother was serving us, and she was like running and serving and sitting down in her chair and getting up and serving. And I was like, golly, this culture is so messed up. The women has to serve us, and they don't get to sit with us. This is completely screwed up. And I was getting really frustrated by this whole thing. And I asked her, could you please come and just join us? And she was like, no, I could never do that. I could never do that. So I said, okay, whatever. This culture is really messed up. And it is to a certain extent. The ancient wisdom is there, but it doesn't mean it was perfect, okay? So after the meal, I went through the kitchen to go to the backyard to play with their kids, right? And as I'm going through the kitchen, I see the mother sitting there by herself with a bouquet of flowers on this little table in the kitchen, sitting there, relaxed and calm, eating her meal. And I was like, oh, That's what that's about. It's more important, right? It's more important for her to sit down and take time and relax and enjoy this meal than and have a really good digestion and impregnate those microbes and support a healthy lymphatic fluid from the very first bite, because that is the beginning of the production and manufacturing of every cell and every tissue in your body, including your immunity, your health, your happiness, and your longevity, according to Ayurveda. And there's pretty good signs to say that they were actually right. So sitting down and relaxing was more important than sitting with us getting up. And you're right, mothers who serve meals for everyone, who are up and down, nibbling on the way, gobbling here, gobbling there, do they really get to relax and enjoy their meal? Chances are no. They got to cook it and serve it and everything. And I was like, I totally get it, but I think we should rotate, and the father should be doing the serving and the mother should be hosting the guests, at least trade off on that. But the point is that the culture was set up that eating was a priority. So that's the first step in supporting your longevity. It's the first step in supporting optimal health, and absolutely the first step in your lymphatic flow. If that lymphatic system is eating food on the run, gobbling down, not only does it alter your ability to digest the food, but it changes the microbiology in a dangerous way. For example, you're watching TV, right? And you've got the clicker and you've got your cell phone and you're eating your meal in front of the TV, watching some scary movie or some Avengers, superhero type movie. And lots of crazy stuff is going on. And all of a sudden you're eating all this food and the stomach is going whoa, where did all these carrots come from and this lettuce? I had no idea you guys were eating food. I was watching the movie. So there's no preparation of the mind, the taste, the smell, the touch, the sound. All those senses send messages to the stomach so they can prepare to digest the food. It's really all connected on the most subtle level. And if you're distracted, multitasking while you're eating, which in the history of the world never happened, every animal, if you have a dog or a pet, you put food in front of them, they want nothing to do with you. They are totally focused, and they might even bite you if you take that food away from them or mess with them. So it's a genetic thing that we have, that it's very important for the body, for us to be focused and relaxed and calm while we're eating our food. And the science behind that is that when you relax, you activate a nervous system in your body called the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the system called the rest and digest nervous system. So if you're eating in a relaxed, calm way, you activate parasympathetic dominance, which means that the digestive system turns on. So you're ready to digest your food, right? If you're eating on the run, gobbling, stressed out, angry, yelling, screaming, that activates the opposite system, the fight or flight sympathetic nervous system, which literally turns your digestive system off. It's run up a tree, save your life, and you're not thinking about, a Big Mac while a bear is chasing you. So it's two completely nervous systems, simple science, basic science, eat in a relaxed way. And that starts the digestive process right. It allows you to digest the food in a complete way and create this nutrient fluid, which is the first lymphatic fluid, which begins to find its way into the lymphatic vessels. Now, because we don't do that, and because we eat a lot of processed foods that are extremely undigestible, like processed foods in general have a wrapper, and they have an ingredient in there called oil of any kind that was put in an oven and baked, renders it undigestible. If you take a loaf of bread and you put oil in it and you bake it, it'll stay squishy for a month. Really good bread, instead of taking an hour to bake, takes 3 days to bake. We have to create starter for it. It takes about 3 days to make really good bread. After a day, it's hard as a rock. After 2 days, you can knock somebody out with it, okay? And which means that the bugs are going to eat it because it's very good nutrition for the microbes, which make up 90% of you. Now, a loaf of bread that can sit on the counter for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks and not get moldy, the bugs won't go near it. 90% of your cells won't digest it. When you put it in your mouth, nobody can digest it. okay? The oils go into your liver, they congest your liver, and the liver regulates your blood sugar, which is the epidemic of our time. Prediabetes is the epidemic of more than a third of the American population have prediabetes as we speak. And this all came, fast rewind, back in 1961 when they took cholesterol out of our diet, calling animal fats and cholesterol bad for us because it caused heart disease, which it didn't, but it was a mistake. And from that moment, school lunches changed, cholesterol-free foods were manufactured, processed oils were done, and we processed the heck out of these oils, rendered them undigested, congested your liver, and the liver affects your blood sugar directly. The first thing that goes south when you talk about blood sugar issues is not your pancreas, as we most think, it's your liver. And when the liver gets congested, you can't digest your fats. People can't eat fatty food. Their gallbladders get congested. It's one of the most common surgeries today is gallbladder removals, and they can't. The fats, the bile in the liver regulates the ability for you to poop good. It regulates how well you go to the bathroom. It also buffers the acid for your stomach, and if there's no bile production because the liver is all congested because of bad fats you've been eating, the body can't produce the adequate bile. And without adequate bile, you can't buffer the acids, you can't break down your fats, the good guys and the bad guys, okay? So, eating on the run is the minor thing, right, compared to this major stuff that we've done wrong. So that's how far out of whack we are. When the digestive system breaks down, let's say you did eat a bunch of processed foods and Wonder Bread and crackers and it's still all over. Or you can go to Whole Foods and 80% of the stuff in there is processed, okay? So it's very difficult to eat a pure whole food diet with no processed foods. So we all have a certain version of a congested liver, and that means bile flow gets congested. When bile flow gets congested, you can't digest your good fats, can't get rid of your bad fats. The buffers for the acid aren't there. Stomach says, hey man, there's no bile down there to buffer all this acid. What am I supposed to do? And the stomach says, well, I don't know. I'm going to hold on to the acid for a little while longer, and then it stays in my stomach and causes heartburn. And then when I release it, it rips my intestinal tract to shreds, irritation, inflames my gut, causes gut-related irritation and inflammation. And the stomach says, this is crazy. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the fire off. They haven't made bile in years, so we're going to dial down this production of acid to match the lack of bile flow. So the whole digestive strength begins to dial down, right? And that's what we do. All we do then, as a result, is we just don't eat hard to digest foods. We take wheat out of our diet, we take dairy out of our diet, we take greasy fried food. Not that that's good for you, but those are harder to digest foods. But more importantly, are the harder to digest fatty toxins, environmental pollutants, pesticides, mercury on every organic vegetable from the coal mine plumes. You can't wash it off. If you don't have really good digestion, then those toxins stay in your food and they go into your intestinal tract and they get reabsorbed, guess where? Into your lymphatic system. So hang on with me for a minute. That lymphatic system, if you don't have really good digestion, undigested, hard to digest proteins like wheat and dairy, casein and gluten, and fats will go undigested into the small intestine. And because they're not digested completely, they're too big to enter into the bloodstream for proper absorption. So guess where they go? They get absorbed into the collecting ducts of your lymphatic system, which starts on the inside of your intestinal tract. And on the inside of your intestinal tract, you have these lacteals, the beginning of your lymphatic system. And if that lymphatic system, those collecting ducts get congested, bad things begin to happen. They found gluten molecules undigested in those lymphatic vessels, in those collecting ducts. That lymphatic system that drains nutrient fluid into the lymphatic system is a three-part system. It digests good fats, delivers fats for energy, triglycerides in particular, for in-between meal energy. So if you are exhausted after a meal, or brain dead after a meal, or don't have energy after a meal, there's a good chance your lymphatic system is congested, and those triglycerides as fatty energy isn't being delivered to the cells, so you have no in-between meal energy. So it delivers fats for energy. It helps the body get rid of bad fats. The immune system is there. All that stuff that gets collected through your lymphatic system gets scrubbed through 500 lymph nodes where they get attacked by white blood cells and get purified. It's a really cool thing. Because if the stuff is too big, the body goes, well, this could be toxic, could be a bug, could be a virus. So we're going to run it through an immune scrubbing filter. Clean the heck out of it, make sure it's good. And that's how the lymphatic system processes bad stuff coming off the intestinal tract, right? But it also is, not only is it a detoxifying system for some of these toxins, not only is it a delivery system for certain proteins and fats, but it's also the carrier system of your immune system. And 80% of your immune function takes place in what I call the most important half inch in your body. And that's the relationship between the little villi and lacteals on the inside of your intestinal tract and the lymph on the outside of your intestinal tract. And that's where it all happens. A new study I wrote about recently showed that the aging process is linked to the breakdown of 3 tissues in that half inch, that most important half inch, which we have miles of, right? Your whole intestinal tract, right? And one of those is the health and integrity of your intestinal skin, the epithelium of your intestinal skin. The health and integrity of the lymph that lines your entire intestinal tract is very, very important. And then the microbes, the microbiome that lives on that intestinal skin that depends on lymphatic drainage. And if those three guys are directly linked to the accelerated aging process. So when you really boil it down, all you got to do to support your longevity, which Ayurveda called rasayana therapy, so longevity therapy, was to support the health of the lymphatic drainage, so in other words, the lymph system is the drainage system of your body. If the drains are clogged, then the skin will become congested, you know? And if the skin on the inside of your intestinal tract becomes congested, the microbes on there cannot thrive. And then if you add stress to the mix, which can cause the whole process, it creates more alteration of the function and the environment of the intestinal skin. So our longevity takes place right there in that half inch. And in the next couple of videos, I'm going to talk about what happens after that lymph leaves your intestinal tract. But before I finish this video, I want to talk about some strategies to heal and repair your intestinal skin, right? And the beginning of your lymphatic system. Well, first of all, foods are really important. And I talked about seasonal eating. And I wrote a book called The 3-Season Diet, and it's all about seasonal eating and how the value and the importance of that. In the springtime, when it's rainy and muddy, nature harvests leafy greens and sprouts and berries and cherries, the antidote to the rainy and muddy allergy season. In the summertime, when it's hot, nature harvests fruits and vegetables which are cooling to antidote the heat of summer. In the winter, when it's cold and dry, we eat nuts and seeds, and generally more meats and proteins and fats would be available naturally in the winter because the fruits and vegetables aren't growing in Vermont in January in the year 1900 or something, right? So in Ayurveda, the whole idea was connect to the logic of nature. So in the springtime is a great time to clean your lymphatic system because that's when a lot of the lymph movers are being harvested. But every season has its own version of lymphatic moving stuff, okay? And here's how you know what moves your lymph. Anything that would make your skin turn red or dye your shirt when you're eating it, like berries or cherries, would be powerful lymphatic movers. We always look at berries and things like that and cherries as high paranthocyanins and antioxidant-rich foods. Well, those antioxidant-rich foods, studies show they actually work their magic through your lymphatic system. Like, how cool is that? So that's where you want to really put your eggs in that basket. Green foods, leafy greens and sprouts and things are loaded with vitamins and minerals and micronutrients that support lymphatic flow, and they're extremely alkaline. And because they're very alkaline, they actually help the lymphatic system move as well, okay? So every season, look for your version of greens and your version of berries. Even in this winter time, you've got cranberries and root beets, or beetroot, very, very red, lots of betaine, lots of nitrates that swell and create energy and vitality. Some football teams drink beet juice before every game now because it increases energy. Super good science behind that. but it also increases lymphatic movement, opens up the bile ducts, gets the bile to flow, stomach goes, whoa, there's bile down there. I can make some acid, cook some food, stimulate better bile flow, better poop, better elimination, better digestion. Lots of really good things happen when you get this lymphatic system to drain your intestinal tract better. The good stuff can get in when the bad stuff can get out better. So your leafy greens, your berries, your cherries, cranberries are good. Pomegranates, another fantastic lymphatic mover as well. I love herbs. There's an herb called, in Western herbology, called red root. It's fantastic for scrubbing those lymph nodes where all the white blood cells are. Super good for cleansing and scrubbing the collecting ducts or the lacteals. And we have a product called Lymph Cleanse, which really gets in there and cleans out the whole intestinal villi and those lacteals really, really well. Another herb, an Indian herb called Mangista. Mangista is another red root, right? Everything makes your skin die, right? And that red root is a powerful lymphatic mover for getting the whole circulatory lymph to move for you, plus those foods, a great way to get started. So to summarize this first video, we know that sitting down, relaxing, taking time to eat your food is really important. We know that some of these foods are really critical. And what I didn't talk about, and I can't do everything in this lymphatic video series, is talk about digestion. But I have to refer you to so many of my articles and videos about how to reboot your digestive strength properly. Because if that's not good, and undigested foods continually going into your digestive system, intestinal tract, they're going to be not broken down effectively. They're going to congest your lymphatic system and bad things happen. You know, interesting thing, science has shown that our lymphatic system, just like our arteries, can swell, they can become sclerotic, they can become congested. It's just like our arteries. But the only thing, the difference between the arteries and the lymph is the arteries are like the faucets in your house bringing the water to your house, but the lymphs are like the drains. If the drains are clogged, bad things happen. You can get tired, lethargic, heavy, hold on to water, bloat, breasts can become tender when you menstruate, allergies, sinus problems, heaviness, gain weight, stiffness, rings getting tight in your fingers, swollen glands, migraine headaches, hypersensitivity reactions to food, pain in your joints because the toxins get pushed into your joints. That moves around your body, waking up stiff in the morning, rashes on your skin because the stuff gets pushed out through your skin. We're going to talk about that information in the next video. So please join me in our next video where we're going to talk about what happens to this toxicity and the lymph when it leaves your intestinal tract and goes into circulation and congests your lymph. What are the things that happen there and how do we unravel that? Thank you so much for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard, and I'll see you for our next video on the dangers of lymphatic congestion and how to reboot your lymph and decongest your lymph and cleanse your lymph. Thanks for listening. Hi, did you like this video? Do you like our content here at LifeSpa? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/John Douillard right here and get this valuable content every week in your inbox.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.